I couldn't feel my hands when I finally stopped running. My breath came in sharp, broken pieces, like my lungs had forgotten how to work. The night was still behind me, but it didn't feel over. It felt like it was still chasing me. Last night, 2 men tried to rape me. Even thinking it now makes my stomach twist. I keep replaying it, every second, every sound. The way their footsteps got closer. The way one of them laughed under his breath like this was normal to him. Like I was just another opportunity that IT started so quietly. I was walking back, mind busy with things that didn't matter anymore. The road was darker than usual, emptier too. I remember noticing it, but I didn't think danger. Not yet. Then I heard them. It first, just footsteps. Then whispers. I told myself not to turn around. I told myself I was imagining things. But my pace changed, and so did theirs. Faster. Closer. That's when fear started creeping in, slow but certain. My fingers tightened around my phone. I thought about calling someone. I thought about calling him. I did. No answer. The ringing felt louder than my heartbeat. It kept going, and then it stopped. No response. No call back. Just silence. Behind me, one of them spoke. I couldn't catch the words, but the tone was enough. It wasn't a question. It wasn't harmless. I turned. Two of them. Faces half hidden in the dark, but their intentions weren't. One smiled. The other looked me up and down like I wasn't even human. My body froze for a second too long, then instinct kicked in. I started walking faster, then almost running. My breath got heavier. My chest felt tight. I could hear them now, clearly following. No rush in their steps. That was the worst part. They weren't worried. They knew I couldn't get far. Stop. I didn't. A hand grabbed my arm. Everything exploded after that. Panic, fear, adrenaline. I pulled away, tried to scream, but my voice came out weak. One of them laughed again, closer this time. Too close. Relax, he said, like that word meant anything. I fought. I don't even remember how. Just hands pushing, pulling, trying to break free. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. My legs felt like they weren't mine anymore. For a moment, I thought this was it. That this night would end with me losing everything. Then something changed. A sound. A car, maybe. Headlights cutting through the darkness. Their grip loosened. One of them cursed under his breath, and just like that, they were gone. They didn't run far. Just enough to disappear into the dark again, like they were never there. Like nothing had happened. But something had. I stood there, shaking. My arms hurt. My throat burned. I couldn't even cry. It was like my body didn't know what to do anymore. I walked home, but I don't remember the steps. I don't remember the path. Just the feeling of being watched, even when I knew I was alone. When I finally got inside, I locked the door twice. Then again, just to be sure. Silence filled the room, but it wasn't comforting. It was loud. Too loud. Every thought echoed. I looked at my phone, still nothing. No missed calls. No messages. No sign that he even noticed I was gone, that I needed him, that something had almost destroyed me tonight. I sat on the floor because my legs couldn't hold me anymore. My hands were still trembling. I tried to breathe normally, but it didn't work. Every inhale felt forced. I should have called the police. I should have told someone. But all I could think about was how close it came. How easily it could have gone differently, and where he was. I kept staring at his name on my screen. Thinking maybe I'd call again. Maybe this time he'd answer. Maybe this time I wouldn't feel so alone, but I didn't. Something stopped me. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the realization that even if he picked up now, it wouldn't change the fact that when it mattered, he wasn't there. I lay down. But sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt their hands again. Heard their voices. That laugh. I kept asking myself the same question, why me? But there was another question, quieter, harder to face, why wasn't he there? I don't know which one hurt more, because what almost happened to me last night was terrifying, but realizing I went through it alone, that broke something deeper. Morning didn't feel like morning. It felt like something unfinished, something waiting. I watched her the moment she woke up, not openly, but enough to notice the details I had ignored for weeks. She moved like everything was normal, like nothing had shifted overnight. She greeted me the same way, her voice steady, her expression calm. If there was anything hidden beneath that, she wasn't letting it show. That I responded like I always did, matching her tone, keeping everything surface level. It wasn't difficult to pretend. That had become routine without me realizing it. But this time, I wasn't ignoring what I felt. I was paying attention to everything. She checked her phone early. That was the first thing I noticed. A quick glance, subtle, almost automatic. Then she put it down when she realized I was nearby. It was small, but now it meant something. Every small thing meant something. Throughout the day, I kept watching. The way she drifted into her own thoughts, the way her attention slipped during simple conversations, the way she seemed slightly impatient without reason. It all lined up too well with what I had been trying not to see. By the afternoon, I didn't need convincing anymore. I needed proof. That it came sooner than I expected. Her phone buzzed while she was in the other room. Just once. Not loud, not urgent. But enough. I looked at it for a second, my mind already arguing with itself. Then I picked it up. The message wasn't long. It didn't need to be, same time tonight. That was it. No name saved the way it should have been. Just a single initial. But the meaning was clear. Too clear that I stared at the screen, reading it again, as if it might change the second time. It didn't. Instead, it settled something inside me. Whatever doubt I had left disappeared in that moment. That I put the phone back exactly where it was, my movements careful, controlled. When she returned, I said nothing. I didn't look at her differently. I didn't ask questions. Not yet, because now I knew. The rest of the day moved slowly. Every second stretched, filled with a quiet tension that only I was aware of. She went about everything as usual, unaware that something had already broken. Or maybe she knew, and she just didn't think I would notice. By the time night came, I was ready. That I stayed awake, waiting. The house grew quiet again, the same way it had the night before. Nothing felt different on the outside, but inside, everything had changed. That it happened just like he said it would, the soft sound of movement. The careful steps. The door opening just enough to slip through without making noise. That I waited a few seconds, then followed. From a distance, I saw her. Standing near the gate. And then I saw him. There was no confusion this time. No misunderstanding. No room for doubt. They stood close, too close for anything innocent. The way they looked at each other said everything words didn't need to. Familiar. Comfortable. Like this wasn't the first time that he reached for her, and she didn't hesitate. That was the moment everything inside me went still. That I didn't feel anger right away. I didn't feel anything at first. Just a kind of emptiness, like my mind had shut down to protect itself from what it was seeing, but it didn't last. The anger came fast after that. Sharp and overwhelming. Not just at what she was doing, but at how easily she was doing it. Like none of it mattered. Like we didn't matter. That I stepped forward before I could think twice about it. They didn't notice me at first. They were too focused on each other. That only made it worse. When they finally saw me, everything changed instantly. She froze. That he stepped back, and just like that, the reality they had been living in collapsed. For a second, no one spoke. The silence was thick, heavy with everything that didn't need to be said. What is this? I asked, my voice lower than I expected, but steady. She shook her head quickly. It's not what you think. The words came too fast, too rehearsed. I almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. Then what is it? I asked. She opened her mouth, then stopped. There was no answer that could fix what I had already seen. That he looked between us, clearly out of place now, like he had just realized the situation he was in. Without saying a word, he turned and walked away. That I didn't stop him. That my focus stayed on her. Say something, I said. Her eyes filled, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or fear. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. After how long? She didn't respond. The silence stretched again, but this time it was different. This time, it was final. How long? I repeated, a few months, she said quietly. The answer hit harder than anything else. Months, not a mistake. Not something sudden. Something chosen. Repeated, why? The word came out sharper than I intended. She looked down, her voice barely holding together. Things haven't been the same between us. I let out a short breath, shaking my head. So this was your solution? I felt alone, she said. You were always busy. Distant. The justification settled in, but it didn't change anything. If anything, it made it worse. You could have talked to me, I said. Instead, you did this. She didn't argue. She couldn't. Behind us, I heard movement. That I turned slightly and saw him standing there. That he wasn't supposed to hear any of this, but he did, and the look on his face said everything. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just between us anymore. I didn't go looking for proof. That's what I told myself at least, but when doubt settles in your chest, it doesn't stay quiet. It grows, slowly, feeding on every small inconsistency until it becomes impossible to ignore. And by then, you're not searching anymore. You're confirming. His phone wasn't locked before. That was one of those things he used to say meant trust. I have nothing to hide, he'd told me once. Now it was always locked. That alone should have been enough, but it wasn't, because a part of me still wanted to be wrong. Still wanted all of this to just be in my head, a reaction to what happened that night, a way for my mind to cope with fear by creating something else to focus on. So I waited. That I watched. That I paid attention to everything he said, and everything he didn't. The gaps got wider. The excuses thinner. And that name, it kept coming back, like a whisper I couldn't silence. Then it happened. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a moment he didn't think mattered. That he was in the shower. His phone lit up beside me. That I didn't touch it at first. That I just stared. The screen glowed in the dim light, that same name appearing again. This time with a message. I miss you too. Too, that word hit harder than anything else. That it meant continuation. It meant history. It meant this wasn't new. That my fingers moved before I could stop them. The phone unlocked easier than I expected. Maybe I remembered the pattern better than I thought. Maybe some part of me had been preparing for this. The messages opened, and everything fell apart. There was no confusion. No room for doubt. Just lines of words that built a reality I wasn't part of. Conversations that went on for weeks. Maybe longer. Late-night talks that used to be hours. Inside jokes. Pictures. Promises that he wasn't just talking to someone else. That he was giving her everything he stopped giving me. My chest tightened, but not in the same way as that night. This wasn't panic. This was something colder. Heavier. That I kept scrolling even though I knew I shouldn't. Each message cut deeper than the last. Every, I wish you were here, felt like it was meant for me once. Every, I can't wait to see you, erased something we had, and then I saw it. A message from last night, the exact time I was calling him. I'm with you, don't worry about anything else. My hands started shaking, while I was running for my safety, while I was dialing his number with fear in my throat. He was with her. Present. Available. Choosing her. That realization didn't just hurt. That it crushed something inside me completely. That I put the phone down before he came out. I didn't want him to see me like that. I didn't want him to know I knew. Not yet, because I needed a moment to understand how someone could do this, how someone could claim to care about you and still disappear when you needed them most. How they could replace you so quietly, so completely, without even giving you the dignity of truth. When he walked back in, he smiled like nothing had changed. That was the worst part. How long have you been here? He asked casually. Long enough. I replied that he didn't notice the difference in my tone. Or maybe he chose not to. We sat in silence for a few seconds. It stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. I need to ask you something, I said. Yeah? Were you really busy last night? He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Yeah, he said again, but this time it sounded weaker. With work? I pushed. Yeah. Why are you asking this? I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the person in front of me. Say it again, I said quietly. Say you were working. His expression changed. Defensive now. What's this about? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I know, I said. Those two words shifted everything. His face went still. Not shocked. Not guilty. Just calculating. Know what? He asked, even though he already understood about her. I replied. Silenced at no denial this time. That told me everything. How long? I asked. It's not what you think, he said immediately. That answer almost made me laugh. Then tell me what it is. I said. He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding my eyes. It just happened. I didn't plan it. Weeks of messages. Late nights. Promises. It just happened. I repeated. He didn't respond. You couldn't answer my call last night, I continued, my voice steady despite everything breaking inside, because you were with her. It's not like that, he said again, but weaker now. Then what is it like? I asked. He had nothing. No explanation. No justification that made sense, just silence, and in that silence, everything became clear. The distance. The lies. The absence. It wasn't accidental. It was a choice. I felt something shift inside me then. Not anger. Not even sadness, clarity. The men last night, I said slowly, they tried to take something from me. He looked up, confused. But you, I continued, you already did. His expression changed, but it didn't matter anymore, because whatever we had left was already gone. Something inside me went quiet after that. Not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, but the kind that replaces chaos when your mind finally stops expecting things to make sense. I wasn't shocked anymore. I wasn't even asking myself why. I had already crossed that part. What I felt now was heavier, clearer. I stopped looking at him like someone I needed answers from. I started looking at him like someone who had already given me all of them. Is that all? I asked, my voice steadied. He looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, is it just talking, or is there more you haven't said yet? For a second, it felt like he was deciding how much truth I could handle. That alone told me everything about where we stood. Truth wasn't something we shared anymore. It was something he managed. There's nothing serious, he said. It's not like that. I held his gaze, not reacting, just waiting. Because I had learned something important in the last few minutes. If you give silence enough space, people fill it with honesty. He exhaled slowly. We met a few times. There it was. Simple. Direct. Final. I nodded, not because I accepted it, but because I understood it. Every missing piece had just fallen into place. The late nights, the distance, the way he carried himself like someone divided between two lives. And you didn't think I deserved to know that? I asked. I didn't want to hurt you, he repeated, the same line. The same empty reasoning. You already did, I said, without raising my voice. He looked at me like he expected more. Anger. Tears. Something loud enough to match the situation. But I didn't have that in me anymore. Whatever would have come out like that had already been replaced by something colder. What did you tell her about us? I asked. He hesitated again. That hesitation felt almost routine now. I told her things weren't great, he said. I let out a small breath. Things weren't great, or you stopped trying? He didn't answer. And that silence felt like agreement that that's when it really settled in. Not just what he had done, but how he had justified it. He didn't see this as a sudden mistake. He saw it as something that grew out of a gap he believed already existed. And instead of closing that gap, he filled it somewhere else. You shared parts of yourself with her that you stopped sharing with me. I said that it wasn't a question. It was a realization. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, he replied, but his voice lacked conviction. It doesn't matter how it was meant to happen, I said. It matters that it did. There was a pause, but this time it felt different. Not heavy, not uncertain. Just empty. That I studied his face, trying to find something familiar, something that reminded me of the person I thought I knew. But all I saw was someone who had made choices I wasn't part of. Do you love her? I asked. That question seemed to hit him harder than the others. He looked away, running his hand through his hair like he needed time. I don't know, he said, the same answer. The same uncertainty. But this time, it didn't affect me the way it did before, because now I understood something I hadn't before. It wasn't about her. It wasn't even about love. It was about the fact that he had allowed himself to create something outside of us, and in doing that, he had already stepped out of what we were. That I nodded slowly. That's enough. What do you mean? He asked. I mean, I don't need to hear anything else. For the first time, I saw something shift in his expression. Maybe it was realization. Maybe it was the moment he understood that I wasn't reacting the way he expected. I'm sorry, he said. That I looked at him, really looked this time, and tried to feel something when he said it. But it didn't land the way apologies are supposed to. It felt late. Not because of timing, but because of intention. Are you sorry because you hurt me? I asked, or because now you have to deal with it? He didn't answer. And that told me more than anything else could have. The room felt different now. Not tense, not overwhelming. Just final. Like something had reached its natural end, even if neither of us had said it out loud yet. I kept thinking I was losing you, I said quietly. But the truth is, I already did. He looked at me, like he wanted to say something that would fix it, something that would pull everything back to where it was before. But there are moments where words lose their power. And this was one of them. I didn't plan this, he said. I know, I replied. That's what makes it worse. Because it meant this wasn't one bad decision. It was a series of small ones. Choices made over time. Moments where he could have stopped, could have turned back, but didn't. That I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of everything settle into something solid. Something undeniable. I'm not going to compete with someone who shouldn't exist in our marriage, I said. I'm not asking you to, he replied quickly. But you already did, I said. The moment you let her become part of this. He didn't have an answer for that. And I didn't need one. For the first time since this started, I didn't feel like I was searching for clarity. I had it. It wasn't comforting, but it was real, and that changed something inside me. I think the hardest part, I continued, is realizing that while I was trying to understand you, you were already building something else. He looked down, but I didn't stop. I wasn't losing you to her, I said. I was losing you to a version of yourself that stopped choosing me. That was it. That was the truth, and as I stood there, I realized something else. I wasn't breaking in that moment. I had already broken slowly, quietly, over time. This was just the point where I finally saw it clearly. I can't unsee this, I said. That he nodded, like he understood, but I wasn't sure he did. Because understanding the words and understanding the weight behind them are two very different things. That night, something shifted in a way that couldn't be undone. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet, irreversible change. That I didn't feel like his wife anymore. Not in the way that mattered, and even though nothing around me had physically changed, I knew something fundamental had ended.